Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live webinar with Dr. Jocelyn Strand on the oral microbiome and holistic dental care, aka Would You Kiss Your Mama with That Mouth is the title they sent me, which is cute. Um, Jocelyn, first of all, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me, Bridget. It feels like I've known you forever, even though this is our first live interaction.
Yeah, I think last time you had to record for me because you had an emergency.
Yes, I had
So,
something come up with my family. That's right.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, we already have 20 people on, so that's awesome. Yeah, I always find in my community dental health is really popular. I think there's still a lack of information available. People do want to approach oral health differently. And unfortunately, I think so many people, it's so prevalent that we have, oral health issues, again, even in my community. So I wonder if you could just speak to that starting out here.
I think the most, to me, the most important thing is that I wasn't paying attention to this when I was in active practice. I was not aware of how prevalent it is. It's actually, and I'll talk about this some in the presentation, but it's the single most prevalent inflammatory illness globally.
Wow.
Periodontal disease. So that's gingivitis or periodontitis. So, that's pretty huge number, right? I think we're also not seeing the healthy people typically in our patient population. So what we see as practitioners is probably higher than that, where they have some degree of inflammation in their gums or their periodontal area. And then I think understanding, which I didn't at that time, the connection to the oral health, the oral microbiome, and systemic or whole body health. And just, it's such an easy place for us to apply some therapeutics, so everybody's already brushing their teeth. We're already tuned into oral hygiene. And so directing a few things there can make a huge difference. And I'm watching that happen and getting reports from practitioners now that I'm not in practice anymore. And it's pretty remarkable, just like my experience with Biocidin in general, before I started using the oral health products. You just know as a practitioner when something's working and making a difference for your patients,
Yeah, it's true. They definitely didn't talk about that when I was in school or when I was in my acupuncture practice. It wasn't discussed at all. I may have first learned about it from you guys, really, because you've probably been carrying the toothpaste the whole time I've known Biocidin, and it's one of our top sellers. People love it. And then the mouthwash came out later, right?
Yes. So I'm trying to think of the timeline. The toothpaste, maybe, I'm guessing. I'm taking a stab at it. A stab would be maybe we came out with the toothpaste 6 or 7 years ago, and then the oral rinse shortly thereafter, a year or two after. And that was really initiated by, do you know Dr. Lynn Patrick? She's an ND, and she's a speaker, big speaker in the industry, amazing human in general. But she was using the LSF to work on her own periodontal health, the liposomal biocidin, and then she did research with Dr. Rothschild, and I do have one slide on that, although I wasn't necessarily going to go into the research too much. But she's the what that her experience with it and the amoebas and the spirochetes, all of that resolved when she started using the LSF biocidin. That is the reason that we started the liposomal oral rinse.
Oh, cool.
Pretty interesting backstory.
Yeah. So before you share your slides, it's getting darker and darker, I think, where you are.
Well, it is, because it's that time of day for me. But is the camera coming in and out? Is that the problem?
No, it's just really dark. I just wondered if you had another light source. If you don't, it's okay.
See if I can do something about it.
Okay. I just feel like I'm very bright and you're very dark.
Is that any better?
Yeah. Okay. I just didn't want you to fade away until I'm in the darkness.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you should have a button to share your screen on the bottom, and you can pick a tab to share if that works for your slides.
Share screen.
I know it's your first time on here.
Screen sharing. Okay, so let me show. Is it sharing the correct screen? Oh, I see. It's allowing me to pick which one.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yes, got it.
Okay, awesome. That wasn't so tough.
You're smart.
We're gonna do all right. So this is an exciting month for me to talk to you about oral health because we just did a relaunch of our we reformulated the toothpaste, so it's a little bit different tasting, a little bit different viscosity, a vastly improved packaging. And then, of course, part of our rebrand, which we launched in April. So we've gotten more specific on our rebrand as well. And so I am the Director of Clinical Education at Biocidin Botanicals. I've been in this position for 3 years on August 15th, so almost exactly 3 years. And I landed here because, like I said earlier, of what I saw in my clinical practice using this product. And it really, what it did is bring into focus to me the importance of working with the microbiome, whether that's in the gut, the mouth, on the skin, in the sinuses, whether it's systemic with chronic systemic infections. I had really dramatic patient responses using the Biocidin line of products, and that's how I landed here. Where oral health is concerned, it really is, like I said, kind of newer to me. And, because I've been working for the company, I'm responsible for understanding the science behind oral health. This is relatively new to me, but now I've been talking about it for about 3 years. So let's talk about what I think is the most important or most impactful, what really caught my attention. The first is that there are 20 billion bacteria in the oral microbiome. So that's a huge number. I think it's kind of hard for us to conceptualize, but there are over 700 different species of bacteria just in the mouth. So the middle for most people would be right around 296. This is what I thought was really fascinating, is that in 1 milliliter of saliva, there are 10 to the 8th microorganisms. So I can't even do that math in my head. It's a huge number. And we swallow a liter of saliva every day. So that's important because what we swallow here makes its way to our gastrointestinal tract, especially if we don't have good stomach acid, and especially if we have pathogens that can translocate and live in the gut. That becomes then an issue outside of just the mouth and into the gastrointestinal tract as well. And it's also just kind of gross to think about. I think, just the sheer quantity of microorganisms that we're swallowing every time we swallow is pretty amazing. And why we want to keep our teeth clean, right? So the impact of oral health is, as we were talking about earlier, periodontal disease is the larger category of two things: gingivitis, so that's inflammation in the gums, and periodontitis. And so that is down in the pockets between the tooth and the gum, the periodontal pocket. And 50% of adults over 30 in the United States and over 70% over 65 in the United States will have one of those two things. So this is this is half the people, right, in the country, basically, that have some degree of inflammation in their gums or their periodontal pocket. And we'll see why that's so important. Besides just it's an inflammatory illness. Anytime you see itis, gingivitis, periodontitis, it means inflammation and sort of fire and heat at that area. And inflammation, we know, is one of the main causes of aging, of damage to tissues. So this is, of course, we think of just that area, but we know that it causes an impact outside of the mouth as well. Good news is it's an easy place for us to focus, easy access to get some good therapeutics going. So the inflammatory cascade of periodontitis, it starts with, so we'll talk a little bit more in depth about biofilms, but it starts with microorganisms. There are a handful of microorganisms that are primarily responsible for the production of plaque that like to live in the mouth, and they will sit there and create some, this is a biofilm in the mouth, is plaque, right? It's that fuzzy teeth feeling. It's the sweater on your teeth. And I will say this is the single most common report that we get about the dental sidin and the dental S, is that people are like, I can't even believe how I don't feel this tooth. What is the phrase? Is it tooth sweater or something like that? My teeth don't feel fuzzy anymore at the end of the day. And so what the reason that happens is because we're working with biofilms, disruption of biofilms. They can no longer create that kind of sticky matrix, and that matrix is a survival mechanism. And I'm getting ahead of myself because I have some slides specific to that. So let me back up a little bit and talk about periodontitis. So in that periodontal pocket, so you have the tooth, and you can see it here, and here's the gum. And right in here, little bits of microorganisms, bacterial biofilm will get stuck here. it causes inflammation. Our immune system goes in there, tries to kill the microorganism, but it can't kill what we have. The neutrophils, our first line of defense against biofilms, can't kill or can't break down a biofilm. So you end up just getting some chronic inflammation. And then you have right adjacent to that periodontal pocket is blood flow. There's only sometimes a single cell layer between the periodontal pocket and our blood flow. And so all of these inflammatory mediators that are generated either by the microorganism or by our body's attempt to break down those biofilms then can go into the bloodstream. And that's where it disseminates into the rest of the body and can cause some problems. So we have two different issues there. One is that we have what I just talked about, which is the transfer of bacterial products. So we would say, pro-inflammatory mediators, so things that are really irritating to our immune system and to our body that create inflammation and damage our tissue. That's one thing that's produced by these bacteria and yeast in the mouth. The other thing that happens is that when we get damage to the area adjacent to the blood vessel, you'll actually get translocation, which means movement of the bacteria into the bloodstream. We now know, and I think Dr. Ibrahimian was just talking about this on our live webinar, 50% of cardiac events have oral bacteria as part of the process. So, I mean, this is a huge deal. It's not just kind of like, oh, it might be helpful. No, this is a big deal as far as prevention is concerned. Working on supporting healthy tissue in the periodontal pocket and healthy microbiome in the mouth has the potential to do great service for us in terms of our chronic or long-term well-being. So microbial movement, right? And this is actually, all of these words come from our literature. So if you are a practitioner listening, we do have Biocidin Academy, and you'll be able to get a hold of this. We have an oral health care guide, a protocol sheet, and a lot of this information is readily available. And maybe we can get that to you, Bridget, and you can also share it if you're interested in doing that. So let's talk a little bit about the systemic illnesses that can be caused by this issue in the mouth. This is called microbial shift, if you all want an impressive word or impressive phrase to use. So microbial shift, we see damage to the localized tissue, movement of metabolites, and translocation of the microorganisms into the bloodstream. So those organisms go through the bloodstream. And when I said cardiac events, what that means is that those bacteria land in the coronary arteries on the heart valves, and where they will establish a biofilm, and they can create a problem there, an infection, localized inflammation, and contribute then to cardiovascular inflammation in that way. So here's the issue with the mouth and biofilms. So biofilms, remember, that's plaque in the mouth, and biofilms are an extracellular matrix. It is a survival mechanism so that, like I said already, our immune system cannot get to the microorganisms when they're housed up underneath the biofilm, but that's not all. Antimicrobials or antibiotics can't get to them, antifungals. Also UV light. I mean, it can be any whatever is dangerous to the microorganism, the biofilm is there to protect them. So it's a key part of working with oral health is to make sure that you address the biofilms. The teeth are a non-shedding surface, right? So we think about our skin that sheds over time, the lining of our mouth, the lining of our gut, the lining of our nose. We're consistently reproducing the cells there and shedding there. That doesn't happen on the teeth or any implants, any prosthetics. So these are areas that are especially prone to biofilm production. So you think about the pit of a tooth, right? It's a place you can't get a toothbrush bristle. That's going to be a source of a biofilm, right? So it will hole up under there and reseed from there over and over again, whether it's a yeast or a bacteria, and it will continue to do that. And there are good bacteria. So I don't mean to scare everyone, right? I mean, it's not just the bad guys that make biofilm. They all make biofilm. So just remembering that this is actually, we are designed to live with them. I think the difference right now and why they get out of control is because we have such high carbohydrate diets. We have elevated stress that's causing, it's suppressing our own immune response and its ability to stay on top of the microorganisms. We have, there's so many, I would say sugary drinks would be a huge contributing factor as well. And I don't know if anyone here has noticed, but if I do intermittent fasting or eat keto, my teeth don't get fuzzy during the day, right? And that's because I'm not those bugs that are living on the surface of the teeth. So anyway, just trying to paint that picture of what it looks like. The main microorganisms that are responsible for the production of plaque are Candida albicans. So that's a yeast or fungal element. Streptococcus mutans, and strep mutans is a problem for dental caries. So that one creates an environment in which caries are more likely to, which are cavities are more likely to happen. And then last but not least is Porphyromonas gingivalis, which is a gram-negative bacteria. And that gram-negative bacteria has a slew of literature, which we'll look at shortly, connecting it to systemic illnesses as well. So those three bugs we are actually looking at it as a company, and Biocidin in particular, their response to Biocidin right now in research at the University of Binghamton. But anyway, so this is why it's so important for us to clean our teeth regularly, is to remove as much of those biofilms as possible. They can reproduce in 24 hours. They can be sort of back right to where they were if we are not, especially again, if we're eating that high carbohydrate load and feeding them. This is a toothbrush bristle, and these are biofilm bacteria on it. And this is the same toothbrush bristle at higher magnification. So I love doing this slide live because everybody gasps and people want
so gross. Yeah, it's so gross. This is why they tell you to change your toothbrush head, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. I like to think mine doesn't look like this because I use dental siding, but I've never done the imaging to make sure. So biofilms we've talked about, I've kind of talked about at length already. So let me make sure I'm not missing any key points here. Just remembering there are multiple organisms that it can be gram-negative, gram-positive bacteria, yeast, even viruses can live behind those biofilms or can hole up in the biofilms. And this is an important piece, and I think really interesting, is that biofilm bacteria, they can then resist up to 5,000 times the normal antibiotic concentration it would take to kill them. So a really extraordinary survival mechanism for the bacteria. So Porphyromonas gingivalis, P. gingivalis is how you mostly hear about when it's written. This, again, I'm going to remind everybody, gram-negative bacteria lives in the mouth. It is one of the most common causes of periodontal disease. So it is one of the reasons why we get that damage to the periodontal pocket and the sort of permeability of the periodontal pocket and the adjacent blood flow. And in the medical literature, it is linked to cardiovascular disease. So atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, myocardial infarction, which is a heart attack, abdominal aortic aneurysm, and hypertension. So all of these things linked directly to just this one bacteria in the mouth. Oncology, so this is cancer, metabolic diseases like diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is hugely on the rise right now. Pulmonary issues, including pneumonia and COPD. That's chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And actually the mouth and the pulmonary microbiome are very, very closely connected, which makes sense because anatomically they're close. But there's another reason, is that when we sleep at night, our reflexes are deadened a little bit in order for us to be able to sleep soundly, and we'll do microaspiration of what's in our mouth. So another reason, of course, globally, considering the global environment, we want to keep our lungs as healthy as we can right now. And so if you get what I'm putting down, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, we want to be careful for that reason as well. It's another reason to tend our oral microbiome very well. And then neurological illnesses, Alzheimer's and depression. Alzheimer's in particular and dementia have a huge amount of literature showing connection to Porphyromonas gingivalis. We have rheumatological, like rheumatoid arthritis, other autoimmunity, and then obstetrics. This is really potent. Poor pregnancy outcomes, really strong literature there as well. So just, again, making sure that you address that. I mean, it's like premature birth and underweight births, and I mean, it's really quite dramatic when you look at that. So really important aspect to full body health. So different microorganism. This is Candida albicans, which I know that you know a lot about, Bridget. But Candida is a fungus or a yeast, and it is the most ubiquitous yeast that we know of in human body. It's considered a normal flora. It is an opportunistic flora, so it can overgrow. But this is interesting research that showed that people who brushed after every meal had a very significant reduction in their stool levels of Candida, which is basically proof positive that what's growing here and we swallow then will colonize the gut. If it's an habitable environment for that particular organism, it can be a problem in the gastrointestinal tract then. And so for Candida, there are a whole lot of different, I mean, these are the things I think of with Candida. One is CFO, of course. So we know SIBO is the bacterial overgrowth, and CFO would be fungal overgrowth. Candida albicans is one of the common microorganisms responsible for that, the most common. And then the other things I think about are just people maybe who've had mold exposures and are sort of have fungally moldy environments. Maybe they have fungal overgrowth on their fingernails and toenails, or they'll have yeast infections on their skin. You may also look in their gut or suspect or suppose that they may have fungal overgrowth in their gut as well. Really important. If we skip the mouth, you will be skipping a habitat where they flourish as a general rule. So it becomes very important to pay attention to that as well. So one of the things I love about working for Biocidin is that Biocidin Botanicals is that we do a lot of research, and it really drew me as a scientist myself. It really drew me to the company to begin with. So serious science behind every smile. So we do lean into the literature, meaning that we read the medical literature. We work with our products accordingly. And this is research actually from 2013. We're working with Dr. Claudia Marquez out of the University of Binghamton right now, and that's this research. We're looking Porphyromonas gingivalis, so that bug that we saw all the connections to, Streptococcus mutans, which is another biofilm producer, and Candida albicans. So we're in the process of evaluating those right now, and we should have that data, I would say, in the next month or so. So check back in for our research outcome on that. But this, what you're seeing right here, this is a Candida biofilm at 0 hours. Then the application of 25% biocidin. So it has, I went the wrong way. It has been diluted a little bit. And you can see an immediate breakdown of the biofilm. And then basically what you're looking at here is dead Candida cells. So it was unable to reestablish itself and did 99.9% cell death of the Candida albicans. So this is the biocidin. Biocidin is the active ingredient in the dental cidin. It's a combination of 18 botanicals and essential oils. And so we're seeing here the activity. And then this is before and after. This is Dr. Rothschild phase contrast microscopy. This is a little bit harder to tell, but I'll show you a video here shortly. But this is all biofilm and bacteria. And this is afterwards a few gliding rods, which are normal, healthy. Spirochetes are gone, amoebas are gone. So plants offer us a really beautiful therapeutic. And the reason that I say that is because there are a number of reasons, but one is that it has all of these different activities against biofilm. So for a biofilm to form, it does quorum sensing, initial attachment, it needs swarming motility, and it uses an efflux pump that's basically like a little channel on the cell wall that pumps out anything that's dangerous, right? And so if they have an efflux pump, they identify, oh, this is, let's say berberine, although I think berberine is an efflux pump inhibitor, so it's probably a bad example. But anyway, if there's an antimicrobial or an antibiotic, it just pumps it back out, and then the cell survives, and this is how they get resistant. Efflux pumps is one of the main causes of drug resistance in general. Biocidin, when we looked at, we were looking specifically in vitro research against Borrelia, which causes Lyme disease. It's a bacteria that causes Lyme disease. It was able to disable the efflux pump, and ingredients in biocidin have been proven in the medical literature to inhibit all of these different phases of biofilm production in addition to being bacteriostatic, which means it stops the growth of bacteria, or bactericidal, so it kills bacteria as well. Our research is, again, University of Binghamton on this, plus Great Smokies had over 250,000 stool samples. Biocidin was the most effective herbal antimicrobial and showed bactericidal activity. That's not published. We have 2 different published research papers, and we're working on more of that right now. But please reach out if you have questions. Again, I do want to say very quickly, I'm not making a claim about the product's ability to do any of the things that we talked to reverse the effects of Porphyromonas gingivalis, but rather just educating about the importance of the oral microbiome and working with establishing a healthy microbiome.
Jocelyn, can we pause for a question here?
Sure, of course.
Is a question I knew we were gonna get because we get it every time, which is a fair question. Dr. Martha, who really likes your products, asked, does it kill both the good and bad bacteria?
That is the question we get the most often. And because we get that question the most often, it is the question that we put into research. And so we haven't done the oral microbiome, but what we did do is stool testing with Sun Genomics, full genome sequencing, and we used the Biocidin liquid and the GI detox for 8 weeks. And we evaluated the probiotic abundance in the stool. And we looked specifically at different microorganisms. And what we were able to see is that the total probiotic abundance actually increased, and things like Faecalibacterium prausnitzii, which is our main butyrate producer in the gut, actually increased for most people, and Akkermansia muciniphila also increased. But in most, I think it was 69% of people had an increase. It was a very small population, 13 people, but it was really exciting for us to see that. And we are working on replicating that research right now in a human clinical trial out of UC Davis. We were pretty happy. We wanted to just see that the Biocidin didn't wipe out everything, right? That's what we were trying to prove. We were very, very excited to see that the actual probiotic numbers came up in the stool for most people when we use the Biocidin. Now, why does that happen? We would be guessing why that happens. One is, because it does tend to suppress the gram-negative bacteria in particular, and the overgrowth of those pathogens, clearing the way, or sort of like cleaning out space for the probiotics to improve. The other is that all of these plants that we're using, we're drawing on the gifts of these plants. They have to survive in the same world that we do. And a lot of the pathogens that we work with, or that are pathogens to us, are also pathogens to those plants. And the same is true where the beneficials are the same, right? And so we are actually pulling their physiology to support our own physiology against microorganisms or with microorganisms that they're also interacting with. And so, but it's a fascinating and beautiful thing. And I never did see a reason clinically to suspect that all the beneficials were being wiped out, but it's really nice to see the data, of course, too. So
yeah, and I think the question comes up a lot because when we think of antibiotics, which everyone kind of knows about, we do know they wipe out everything. So when you think, okay, an antibacterial herb, it sounds like it would do the same thing. But yeah, one way I think to also explain it with kind of what you did is like there's a balance. There's so many populations in there, and like you said, when we're eating more sugar, more stress, like even though candida is normal, it's coming up, and maybe we're not brushing our teeth after meals. So it's just restoring that balance, kind of tamping down the bad guys so that the good guys have room to grow, I think is one way to look at it.
Yeah, beautifully said. I mean, that it is exactly how I think about it. And there's no way that most of us on the planet are not consistently eating like a hunter-gatherer diet, right? So most of us are getting some additional carbs here and there, from fruits and nuts and veggies and meat, so that anytime that we do that, we're probably feeding those microorganisms, which is, gratefully we have the plants to call on to help support that. Again, restore balance is really what it is. I love that you said that. And that's typically how I talk about it is, that we are restoring balance to the microbiome, not forcing everything, wiping everything out. So yeah, thank you.
This is a great video if you guys haven't seen it. So
here we go. I never get tired of this. So you're going to hear the voice of Barbara Tritz. I think you will. Hopefully you'll be able to
work. Yeah.
Okay. And if you can't, let me know, and I'll sort of dictate what she's saying. But Barbara is she's the queen of dental hygiene, and she uses our products in her practice. And she is a big fan of this is the Dentalcidin LS that she's looking at in this particular video. And this is phase contrast microscopy again.
Spirochetes. So this is a sample with a lot of spirochetes.
This is out of a periodontal pocket. It's called crevicular fluid.
Heavy bleeding on this patient. And a lot of activity. And I took a plaque sample and I divided it into
those little spirochetes in there. It's so creepy.
On the other half of the sample. And so I'm going to slide to the next cover slip. And this is what Dentalcidin did to the plaque sample. It just kills it. It kills all the bad bacteria. You don't see any spirochetes moving.
You can hear her, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This is what I want from the slide. This is what I want from an antibacterial agent.
So very, very exciting for us to have that. And we did just also, I mean, we continue to do research. We're seeing activity with Dr. Musto. He's microbiology DX is his lab. We're seeing excellent activity against gram-positive, gram-negative pathogens, yeast and mold, all of those things. And so just continuing to, again, to do that, to make sure that we're doing our due diligence on understanding the activity of the biocidin. So what you just saw was the Dentalcidin LS. Earlier, I showed a before and after picture, and this is also related to Lynn Patrick, right? So she's the naturopathic doctor who did this research with Dr. Rothschild based on her experience with the the LSF biocidin, which is a liposomal form of the biocidin. So liposome, I'll talk in a little bit more depth about what that is shortly. But in that research, 7 of the 9 participants had a significant reduction or elimination of the pathogens when they used the biocidin LSF. So the last one you saw was the application of Dentalcidin onto a slide. So that's in vitro, right? It's outside of the body. It's a human specimen, but it's outside the body. This was actually the crevicular fluid. So they were taking, after the consistent use of the product, evaluating the same periodontal pocket for pathogens, and what they were able to see is that the pathogens weren't there anymore, or they were greatly diminished.
So they asked the patient to use this for a month, and then
yes,
7 out of 9 had a significant reduction. Okay, great.
Yes, rinse and spit twice a day is what it was, 2 pumps of the LSF. And so that, again, now we've got the Dentalcidin LS, which is the step 2 in the 2-step oral health program that we've developed. And that has the addition of, in addition to the LSF biocidin, it also has CoQ10, quercetin, clove, and myrrh, some additional nutrients to help support connective tissue in the mouth, and to help with the tight junctions, a research level of quercetin in it as well. So Dentalcidin, let's talk just in a little bit more depth about what it is. Dentalcidin is a toothpaste. It's 3 ounces. This is our new packaging. Have you tried the new packaging yet, Bridget?
No, I need to order it. I just made a video with the old packaging. I'm like, ugh.
Oh, nuts. we'll get you a new one. So this is the new package. It's beautiful, easy to squeeze, and it's the same amount of Dentalcidin, so same amount of toothpaste, and 3 ounces, so you can bring it on an airplane. It is a broad spectrum toothpaste. So again, we're looking for after that, talking about those microorganisms and restoring balance to microorganisms, kind of tamping down. I like the way you use that. Bad guys, and so make room for the good guys. And then this is 20% of it is biocidin liquid. So this is a higher price point than many toothpastes are, but it has this therapeutic grade, practitioner grade, antimicrobial botanical formula in it. I'm trying to find my right words. If you hear me stumbling around a little bit, it's because I'm trying to be safe in my language.
Oh, gotcha.
For the company. So this also has silica, Zeodent silica. So it has a very gentle abrasive. We want a little bit of abrasive in our toothpaste in order to, again, to get the mechanical reduction of the plaque. So very gentle, appropriate for sensitive teeth because it's such a low level of abrasiveness. And then Zeodent also is a binder, right? So it could potentially help with whitening as well. Freshens breath, free of sugar, gluten, fluoride, and artificial flavorings. And so this can be used every day as an everyday toothpaste. And then this is step 2 of the program and of the 2-step program. And this is the Dentalcidin LS. So this is the liposomal oral rinse. In addition to LSF biocidin, it has, like I said, CoQ10 and quercetin, clove, and myrrh. And it is a pump and rinse and spit twice a day. And it can be used 3 times a day as well. This is just an image of some of our literature so that people who are practitioners know that this is available on our website. Really great material, and you can use this in your practice, or it can be patient-facing material. We don't give it out directly to consumers because that we're the practitioner, which we aren't qualified. We don't have their medical history, but a really great resource on our website as well. And just to touch base too, we talked about cognitive decline or neurological issues, but the oral microbiome, cardiovascular disease, metabolic health, respiratory health, GI discomfort, rheumatoid arthritis, and weight management, all related to oral dysbiosis. So here's again, step 1, step 2, the 2-step dentoceutical system. So dentoceutical is a new word that we coined, which is pretty exciting to participate in the invention of a new word. And I don't think we need the last slide. It's just comparison between the old Dentalcidin and the new one. But at any rate, I'd love to take any questions at this point. If you have any further questions.
Yeah, I don't have any up, but feel free to ask anyone. I'll just make some comments on the last couple products, or basically the 2 we're focusing on today, and then I'll share our special, which is, I think there's sort of what you think, oh, what does the normal toothpaste cost? It's whatever, like $4, $6, and I don't know the retail price. It's like $30 for the Dentalcidin toothpaste. It's still one of our top sellers. And really, when you think about it, if you spend $60 on a supplement or $40 on your multivitamin, like, why wouldn't you spend that same kind of investment on your oral health, right? Like a high quality product instead of a cheap Crest toothpaste or whatever. So I think that's why it's still such a good seller for us. It is one reason. And the other is how prevalent these issues are. So you're talking about the inflammation, which is probably more prevalent than people realize in their own bodies potentially. But, so many people with kids with cavities, and, we get people writing in all the time saying that they have, serious issues with like root canal stuff and, looking for dentists. So it's an issue. People are wanting solutions. So,
and I'm always once they try it, they just keep using it because, and that's the thing. It's not, some of this stuff is sort of silent, the cardiovascular disease connected to it, or, we don't necessarily, like you said, even know that it's happening. We may see that we have some inflammation, but not understand that it's creating systemic inflammation as well. But what people do notice right away is that their teeth feel cleaner. They often go into the dentist and this is what we hear all the time. My dentist asked me if I was cheating. One person said, my dentist asked if I was cheating on them because my teeth were so clean.
You just got like a cleaning before you came in.
Yeah. All of a sudden, they're not having the same degree of plaque buildup, and tartar. And again, improvement of that. Of the health. There's one story, Karen Hubert, she is retired from the company now. She's amazing. She's an amazing advocate for this product line. And she gave this product to a woman who had tartar start to come off and cut her lip when she started using the Biocidin.
Oh gosh, how scary.
So it's really, if it's the right therapeutic, it is really quite dramatic. It can be very dramatic and very rewarding, just to see it start to happen.
Wow. Okay, well, I want to show off that we made a new tab on our shop just for you guys. So you just have to go here and click on Biocidin to find all the products. We do seem to have some of the old labels, so sorry about that. Oh, we have a bunch of old labels. Okay.
We'll get you some marketing collateral.
I think we got it, but we moved website. It's been a mess.
No problem.
But you can see
same products, different labels, so it's no
biggie. So this is what the new labels look like, and we already have set it at 10% off for you. These last 2 are the dental products we talked about today, although this is saying the oral care kit, so that's probably both of them together. So you guys have a different name for it.
Yeah, well, it would be the same. This is our new marketing,
I think we put this. I think we made this name, Jocelyn.
Well, there you go. You were ahead of the game.
But it's a little clunky because this one isn't on sale. So again, a lot of stuff move over. But really, I said people love the toothpaste. What's driving me a little bonkers is that people don't buy the mouthwash very much. So
Okay.
please know, yeah, the mouthwash is really important. Even if you've never really used mouthwash, you're used to using only toothpaste when you brush. The mouthwash is really important and nice. I'll let Jocelyn explain it more. But if you really want, that's why we call it the optimal oral care kit, is like, yeah, you can like use the toothpaste, but if you use them both together, especially if you've got an issue you're trying to reverse, it's much stronger, correct?
Yes, definitely. So the liposomal technology means that it will have penetration in the surrounding tissue. So where the toothpaste will get the surfaces that it touches, what it doesn't do necessarily, I mean, there'll be some movement across the cell, but very little. In our research, it showed that liposomal biocidin had 74% better intracellular absorption. So that means if you're trying to get across the gum line, if you're trying to get into the surrounding tissue, then the oral rinse is going to give you deeper activity. And thank you for saying that, because I didn't say that. And it's really important part of this is that the first step gets more of the superficial, everyday use. And then the oral rinse, especially for people, if you have any bleeding gums, if you have any periodontitis or gingivitis, then that means that you have damage and inflammation in that area. You shouldn't have any of that. If you're brushing and flossing regularly, you shouldn't have any bleeding. If you do, that means that you have friable, it's called friable tissue, or easily damaged tissue that's inflamed. And that is a result of oral dysbiosis. So the unbalanced growth of the microorganisms there. When you swish with the liposomal solution, it has better penetration into the periodontal pocket. And so that's where you're able to get a deeper activity. I had one, or actually it was interesting. Before I took this position, I was more just a clinical consultant for the company. And I had 2 different chiropractors call me in the same week saying that they had cavitations or root canals that stopped hurting when they started using the oral rinse. That's, again, not a claim. It's very anecdotal, but often, we get the root canal will be contaminated, and the liposomal solution will have a better chance of accessing that area because of that ability to penetrate the tissue.
Yes. Yeah. So some people are like, well, I can't afford the expensive, surgery right now. And this is a great way to kind of get through and maybe even resolve if you're working on other things in your system. So Martha asked if she said she bought 4 bottles of Dentalcidin LS manufactured 821. Are they still effective?
Yes, totally fine. So 2 years from manufacture date. Once you open them, then I would use them within 2 or 3 months, 3 months probably, just because it's a liposome by its nature is a very unstable molecule. So the biocidin or the Dentalcidin has a longer shelf life, but the liposomal will be a little bit less stable. So use it up once you open it. And the other thing is we're working right now on expiration dates. So you should have that coming shortly.
Okay. Yeah. And Martha, they just like changed the packaging and this and that. So it's nothing bad about the old packaging or the old line. So that's all fine too.
Yeah, we just did a brand update, basically rebrand.
Yes. Yes. Forgot what I was gonna say to you, but I'll just say to people on in our last sale, the discount was doubling down if you bought in bulk too. So that's probably going to happen on this sale as well. So if you already know you love the products, just you can like kind of stock up. But yeah, they do last a long time. So, it takes us actually a long time to get through a toothpaste. So I feel like it goes a little longer.
Need, a pea-sized amount is all that you need. You don't. A little of it goes a long way. You don't need to put, fill the whole toothbrush, and that's an important piece too, because it is on the expensive side. But it is. I think mostly I just try to get people to try it once and see how they like it, because once people try it, they absolutely love it. So most of the time.
Yeah. And I overquoted. The toothpaste normally $27.95. So now when it's on our sale, it's $25 to try. And then the mouthwash somehow didn't get marked out correctly, but the mouthwash will be about $5 off too. So, and we do 30-day money back. I don't know if, well, occasionally there'll be a fluke thing, like someone's allergic to like one herb in the formula, but
Right.
mostly we don't get returns on these
Yeah.
products. But you have
Very
that
well tolerated.
assurance.
It's one of my favorite things about the product line in general is how effective it was, but how well tolerated it is by most people.
Yeah. So our new shop name, we also rebranded. Our new shop name is Functional Detox Products. So again, you can click on that Biocidin tab through September 6th. The Biocidin whole entire line is 10% off. So if you use the GI Detox or anything else, you can stock up on that. Jocelyn, I'm so glad we connected.
Me too, Bridget. It's about time, right?
It's about time. I know. It's like we feel like we know each other. And yeah,
Yeah.
again, people just love this. So once it's over, I'm going to be promoting the replay, and we'll get a lot more people to watch. And if you have any questions, just reach out to our team. Thanks for watching, everyone, and being here.
Thanks so much,
Bye.
Bridget.